Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your being here. So I'm going to start with round one on our questions. The American economy depends on working parents, and working parents depend on childcare. But our childcare system is in crisis, and that's keeping parents out of the workforce, which in turn limits our productive capacity and contributes to inflation. Even before the pandemic, over half the families with young kids lived in childcare deserts, areas where there just simply aren't enough childcare slots. Then COVID hit, forcing thousands of childcare providers to close their doors, many of them for good. Today, when families can find a childcare option, it's often too far away, has a years-long waiting list, and costs more than mom earns anyway. And that's a big part of why in America, women's labor force participation is so low compared with other developed countries, and it's getting worse. Today, women's labor force participation is lower than it was 2 decades ago. Ms. Colagrosso, you run a child care center in West Virginia. So let's start with a really basic question, and then we'll build on this. Why do people need child care? What are the main reasons that parents bring children to you?
Mostly parents bring their children to child care because they need or they want to work. They want to provide a better life for their families, so they may take on a second job, but they want to work or pursue a career, maybe open a small business.
Yeah.
For employment reasons.
So these are people that are doing all the things we want them to do.
Yes.
For both themselves, as Senator Kennedy says, to have the opportunity to work and contribute to our economy. But parents need child care because they want to work. If parents can and want to stay home to care for their children, that's great. But many folks want and need to work to make ends meet, to save for a rainy day, to set aside money for their own kids to be able to go to college. But without affordable childcare, parents, especially moms, have to make excruciating decisions. Mr. Rowan, you described your glass decorating small business that you run. I want to see some samples before we get out of here. I hope you have pictures. But you were describing it, but I'd just like to ask it as part of the, make sure we get all this on the record. What happens when your workers aren't able to find a child care provider with an opening or at a price that they can afford?
Well, it's an instant response. So the story I gave you of Lexis, she's one of my production supervisors, and her father-in-law, who was the child care provider for her. Lexi is one of my best employees, dependable, loyal. She's worked for me forever. But the minute something happens with her child care, and we run a family business, and we say it's a family business in lots of ways. And one of the ways that we say is that if you're a parent and your child is sick, your place is not here at work, it's at home. Yeah. So you go home and take care of your child. Now that doesn't apply to everybody, and it can't be a business model for everybody, but that's what happens when a parent doesn't have a child care alternative or an option. They can't work.
Yeah. So they're just gone.
Everything stops for them. Financially, it's a catastrophe for them and for the business, because we have people that come in and need fit different models that have to be produced.
Right, right. You have deadlines to meet.
Absolutely.
All right. And Dr. Spriggs, you're an economist who studies the labor market. When workers have to cut hours, work part-time instead of full-time, or leave the workforce entirely because of childcare, does that mean that a lack of affordable childcare is reducing labor force participation? I just want to build all the blocks here.
It absolutely does. And because women are half the labor force, even if we have an effect on only 4 percentage points of women's labor force participation, that's 2 percentage points more of a total labor force. That's a lot of workers. That's a lot of output. And that changes the equation, even for the Federal Reserve, in considering, are we at a tight labor market? Should we start slowing the economy?
So let me ask you on this, because I want to draw this point out about what is the broader impact on our economy, on our productive capacity, when there's reduced labor force participation caused by a lack of affordable child care?
So there are a couple of layers. One, we instantly, of course, have a smaller economy because we have fewer workers. Companies have fewer people to put behind machines, provide services. Second, once you've shrunk the economy, now it's going to grow from a smaller base. And then third, you have what the Fed has to consider. If Congress doesn't build the infrastructure to get everybody to work, then the Fed's hands are kind of tied. They have to slow the economy before we would want them to slow the economy. So the length of our expansions becomes shorter. So we get a smaller economy, slower future growth, and a smaller future economy, and we slow the length of our expansions. That's lose, lose, and lose.
And Dr. Spriggs, just so I'm sure, we're having just a little bit of trouble understanding you, and I just want to make sure I've got this. How many workers are we leaving on the sideline compared to our peer countries, the ones that actually invest in childcare? And what is the impact of leaving those workers on the sideline on our GDP? Do you have some numbers around that?
There are a couple of estimates from anywhere from 1% of GDP to 1.5% of GDP. If you think about Canada to our north, where they do make the investments in their children that we don't, this means a much higher labor force participation rate for their women. Anywhere from 10% would be a good estimate. And so we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that we are leaving on the table because we're not utilizing our workers to their maximum.
So is the estimate? Like I said, we're having a little trouble hearing you on our end. Is the estimate that about 5.2 million missing workers in America compared with other countries that provide childcare assistance? Is that about the right number? And I think I heard you say 1 percentage point to 1.5% in terms of the impact on the GDP. Do I have those numbers right?
Yes, and the 500,000 that were the number of workers we're missing, that's kind of conservative because we're only looking at prime age workers. And of course, a lot of women who need childcare are below the age of 25. And so we're missing some workers who are in the age group that actually need childcare because their children are the youngest. So that's a conservative estimate of how many workers we're missing compared to Canada. And I'm using Canada because it's right next door. We share a same sort of history timeline, and we have many of the same companies, many of the same industries. It just shows the difference we could have if we had the right policies.
Wow. So think about that. That's really powerful, Dr. Spriggs. 5.2 million missing workers, and we've actually graphed that here, and nearly a percentage point off the GDP. And that percentage point really matters. You know, over the last decade, average annual GDP growth has been about 2 percentage points. 1 point higher compounds over time, and it would mean both a stronger economy and more opportunities for millions of people. Right now, Americans are getting hit by record shortages and price increases. It's clear that we need to increase the supply of everything, from food to cars to healthcare supplies. So, Dr. Spriggs, let me ask you one more question about this. If we invested in childcare and unlocked all of this labor supply and productive capacity, would that help prevent further inflation?
It will reduce the pressure for inflation in the future. And that's just being the cold hearted view of the labor force. Economists know that investing in American children, all of the programs that we've had, have a high rate of return because in the future, they reduce costs for the government on the order of 8 to 9 times because the investment in the children also pays off. Those children are healthier, crime goes down, they own homes, they're less likely to be poor and need government transfers. Those children are also part of the benefit in the equation.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Spriggs. You know, we're talking about how without childcare, millions of parents can't work. I know this all too well. I nearly quit school, and later I nearly quit my first big full-time job, all because I couldn't find childcare. I wouldn't have made it without help from my Aunt B. And thank you, Aunt B, but not everybody has an Aunt B to make this work, or a grandparent who's able to make all of it work. And that's why it's so critical that we invest in high quality, affordable childcare for every American family. It's going to lower the costs for those families and help make our economy more productive. And with childcare, to unlock productive capacity, it's going to help prevent shortages and cut back on price increases across the economy. Thank you. I apologize to my fellow members here for going long, but I'm so glad to have these experts with us. Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Rowan, what do you propose? Is it Rowan or I can't see that?